with your new friend Ty.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast. It's the podcast where you find new friends and new music. This week we are joined by a Kentucky native who is ready to hit the stage on the farm this Labor Day weekend at Farm Jam Festival. She's already put out 3 albums. She's played the Grand Ole Opry, all of that in between touring on coast-to-coast tours. Let's welcome to the show Miss Brit Taylor and get to know her. Brit, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, and we were just talking about it. You're out in Kentucky visiting the family right now. Is that right?
Yep.
Escaping just some of that July heat in Tennessee.
Yes, it is a much needed break. You wouldn't believe how much 3 hours will make a big difference.
Well, I'm excited to get to learn more about you. We'll tee off with Brit next.
It's time to tee off with Ty. Here comes the first 4.
Okay, Brit, question number 1. And this one, I feel like you've thought about it 1,000 times, I'm sure. But what is your ideal vacation?
My ideal vacation? Oh, goodness. What is my ideal vacation? Somewhere on a beach. A clear beach, white, fluffy sand. Where I don't have to worry about anything. Somebody just plans everything for me. I
think that's the key to a good vacation, is you can't be the planner. You just have to be the one that just goes along.
Yeah, no planning. That just, if you're planning all the things, then it's not much of a vacation for me.
Exactly. Okay. Question number 2, and I feel like people get very heated about this one, and since you're from the area, I got to go straight to the expert. Is it Appalachia or Appalachia?
Appalachia.
Easy
like
enough.
Apple at cha.
Easy enough. You hear that out there? No more Appalachia, folks.
No.
Appalachia. Okay, question number 3. If you could bring a fictional character from TV, a movie, a book, anywhere to life and hang out with them for a day, who would it be and why?
A fictional character. Oh my goodness. This is a good question. Caught me off guard with that one. I have no idea.
It could be, anybody from the last TV show that you saw. We had a lot of TV shows.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of fictional. Let's see, what's the last fictional thing I watched?
What about a historical person? Maybe not necessarily
person.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is Elvis historical enough?
I think so. I think that would be a rocking time. That was a great time.
I would love to hang out with Elvis in that day and just talk about music and his, the way that he grew up and his blast off into fame, because it was so crazy.
It really was. I don't know that a lot of people realize that, just how quickly he shot to the top of everything.
I know. I think they did a really good job on that movie.
They did. I need to go rewatch that. It's been a minute. So, okay, question number 4. If you could have an unlimited supply of anything, tacos, whiskey, Pepsi, guitar strings, scotch tape, whatever it is, what would you take an unlimited supply?
An unlimited supply. These are so funny. I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me these questions before.
Hey, that's good. That means we're doing something right.
An unlimited supply. I would just love to have a wall of unlimited supply of guitars and that I could just pick at any moment.
Okay, what's your go-to guitar brand or style?
Oh gosh, that's such a
it sounds like question for me.
I grew up listening to a lot of bluegrass, and that was always D28s and D18 Martins. And so when I hear a Martin, I'm like, yeah, that's what a guitar should sound like. But lately I've been playing an old B25 Gibson from the 60s, and I love that guitar. I don't even know which one to pick, man. I love both.
I feel like it's got to be that one.
We'll know more when I find a 60s Martin.
There you go. You're still on the search for the right answer on this one. I love it. Well, guys, that was the first 4 presented by Boxer Fighting Hockey Apparel, Northwest Signature Hockey Apparel, online at b4fhockey.com. Use code TEAPARTY, all one word, for 20% off your entire order. But Brit, thank you so much for playing along through our first 4. But now it's time to get to know you a little bit better. Give us a story of growing up in the mountains of Eastern Kentucky and tell us how you got into music. Because your first time on stage was at like 7 years old, right?
Yeah, I feel like I'm so lucky to be born and raised in Eastern Kentucky, for a multitude of reasons, but mostly my family, they weren't into music, other than listening to the radio every now and then. They just weren't music people. They don't sing, they don't play. But because of the area that I was born into, they love country music, and the culture of country and bluegrass is just really strong and front porch picking. And they had a little venue called the Mountain Arts Center that was about 30 minutes from where I lived. And I got involved with this program called the Kentucky Opry Junior Pros, where they literally had kids, and formed a band with them, and they put on shows for like tourists. And so growing up, that was the only thing I ever wanted to do. I loved it so much. There was a summer show season and a Christmas show season, and we played 2 and 3 times in one weekend. And I lived for it, and I never thought about doing anything else, honestly.
And then after high school, you packed up everything, threw all of that plus your bulldog in the car, and headed off to Nashville. What was that draw at Nashville? Was it the music scene? Were you headed out that way for school? Was it something else?
It was both. I think the only way my parents were going to have it is if I was going to school. So I went to MTSU for music business school, and I started writing songs just weeks into moving to Nashville. I just got really lucky and met some folks that were in the music scene and the songwriting scene. And so I just scheduled all my classes on 2 days a week, and then I would write songs the other 3.
Were you a songwriter prior to moving out there, or were you more on the performing side, or a little bit of both?
It definitely started out performing, but I'll never forget when I wrote my first song. I just never thought I'd be a songwriter, just because I wasn't great at school. Like, I wasn't good at English, like, and grammar, and I just didn't like any of it. I didn't like school, so I just associated songwriting with writing and school. But I was 13, and a little boy broke my heart, and a song fell out of the sky, and they haven't stopped falling out of the sky since.
I feel like a broken heart is how a lot of people get started songwriting. It's good therapy.
I'm sure of it.
Well, so when you had moved from rural Kentucky out to this big city, Nashville, what was the most shocking, or what was the hardest part for you moving out there?
The hardest part, I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't have any friends, but I made friends really fast. And it was really strange, though, because I thought I was moving south, which it is south, but my accent was thicker than everybody else's, because I guess East Kentucky is just more hillbilly than that part of Tennessee. So I actually got made fun of a ton in college. Not in like a mean or spiteful way, but a funny way, with my accent all the time and just saying goofy things. I remember telling a friend that I asked her if a movie she watched was any count, and she was so confused by me asking her that. And my mom was sitting at the table with us, and she goes, "Honey, she don't know what that means." She said, "Is it any good?" And just like little stuff like that. Like, I guess we just speak a different language in Eastern Kentucky.
Well, I think, that is definitely probably true. I've got some family that lives in Kentucky, and I've got some friends that are in the Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia kind of area. And the thickest accents I've ever heard come from that area. It doesn't matter. So don't feel like you're all alone there.
Oh, I love it. I love hearing people from East Kentucky and West Virginia and East Tennessee. Like, that Appalachian accent is just, oh man, it's one of my favorites.
Well, so then you got to Nashville. You're going through school, and you started making these industry connections. You started making friends out there. Was there a point when you got to Nashville at a certain point that you were thinking, this is it. I'm on the right track. Finally, I found my people. I'm heading in the right direction.
Yeah,
I think just kind of come together.
I think that there were a lot of little moments like that, from, writing a song with Mark Stephen Jones and Costas and people that already had hits before I had even signed a publishing deal. And then I signed a publishing deal, which is, a lot, really validation. Not a lot of people get to do that when they come to town. Like, it's a really hard thing to do. And I got to sign one. So I felt like an actual songwriter, and it was an actual job to do. And then just little things like that. And then, even when I lost it, the publishing deal, or when I quit, then Dan Auerbach came along and started writing with me. So there's a lot of moments of like, oh man, I'm on track. I've made it. And then, oh God, what have I done? I should have never moved here. And I don't know if that'll ever stop.
Well, and I want to circle back on one thing that you said. You were talking about your publishing deal and about how that ended, and you kind of quit at that point. But you were having some success, out there in the Music City, and then you've been pretty open that the wheels started to come off the track because you'd kind of lost yourself in that process. And I think anybody who's listened to any of your music over the last few years can understand how important being authentic is to you. You feel it through those songs. But what was that time in your life like? I can imagine that it was pretty stressful, trying to make that decision, but betting on yourself is, at least from the conversations that I've had, is one of the most successful ways to be happy playing music, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Was there something, a catalyst that kind of pushed you over that edge at that point, or was it just kind of building up to that?
Man, it was like just a tornado had ripped through my life. My ex had left. I was going through a divorce. I had a bandmate who was my best friend. He quit the band we were in, and we were signed. So I thought we were going to get dropped, and then they kept us as a duo. And then I just kept feeling more and more like, man, everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. I just need to stop it all right now. I had a record in my heart that I knew I wanted to put out on my own that didn't fit what I was doing. And I knew I didn't think the publishers would be very into it, because I was just kind of tired of chasing what was on the radio, because I had been chasing it for 4 years and it just wasn't working. And so I remember, like, it was the day before I either had to sign this extension or I had to say no and risk them not taking me in on another option, because they had one more year if they wanted it. And I said a prayer that night before I went to bed, and I was just, Lord, show me what I'm supposed to do, because I was broke too. I didn't have any money. I'm going through a divorce. I don't have a job. This is my job. And so everybody's telling me to take it, because what else am I going to do? And I woke up from a dream where I was writing the email to my publishers about how much I loved them and appreciated them, but I just couldn't sign it. And I got the letter that day that they weren't going to do the full year. So it was scary, but it was one of the most liberating things that I've ever done. And within months, I was writing songs with Dan Auerbach, Pat McLaughlin, and talking to Dave Brainerd about producing a record, and like all these good things. It was like standing up for myself just opened this door to all these wonderful things. And every time I listen to my gut that way, good things seem to happen.
I mean, that's if you've gotten this far trusting your gut and it's done well, I have a hard time arguing with that. And you mentioned kind of one of the sticking points is that you wanted to stay true to who you are, stay more as a traditional artist, and they were trying to push you kind of in a different direction. And you've also talked about how you started kind of your music journey listening to bluegrass on the radio, back home with your family. How much of your style now is based off of, growing up and what you learned and what you love there versus the time that you've now spent in Nashville?
I think that now, since I started going out on my own, it's been a journey of getting back to the little girl that started singing on the Opry and the things that I grew up loving. And I don't want to, do the same thing that's been done. As much as I love Patty Loveless and the Judds, I don't want to be that again, but I do want to create my own unique sound that's not them or anybody else on the radio. And I think that's a really hard thing to do. But I'm still crafting that. And I feel like with every record that I make and every song that I write, I get closer and closer to what that's going to be. And it's, and it'll shift. It'll always shift because I'm forever changing.
And I think that's a good transition into talking about your songwriting. You say that, you've been performing since you were little. You started writing songs a little bit later. Now that you're kind of settled into Nashville and I guess that world, what does your typical songwriting process look like? Do you typically start writing alone, or are you more of a co-writer?
It's always different. And I write for other artists too. So if I'm writing for other artists, I'll take them in ideas, or we'll write one of their ideas, or you just try to write whatever the energy is in the room. Like you can always feel where the direction's supposed to go, and that's where you go with it. If I'm writing for me, typically the songs I end up recording are songs that I've already written a good portion of, whether it's the chorus or have a good general idea of the direction. And then I like to take that to my co-writes. And, it's just always good to get an outsider's opinion on this. And I love co-writing and co-creating. I think that's one of the coolest things about Nashville. And it can get, if you let it can get very stale and feel like a medical office where it's just, there's no character or excitement. But if you just have to find your people and stick with them.
And when you're sitting down to write, is it something where when you're writing for yourself, are you setting aside a time like a co-write time does, where it's, we're scheduled, we're going to work on this, or do you just kind of write for yourself as it comes up?
I do schedule co-writes like 4 and 5 days a week when I'm home and can. But typically when I'm writing for myself or get those ideas for myself, it's when I'm feeding my goats and donkeys or playing in my garden or pulling weeds or pressure washing a driveway or blowing leaves off the driveway. That's kind of when my brain is just always on and it's always thinking about something or worried about something. And when I'm doing kind of mindless tasks that make me happy, it just kind of opens up something to where I can hear those ideas fall on me. I don't feel like they're for me sometimes. I just need to be quiet enough to hear them.
Well, and we have a couple of songs of yours here to kind of introduce everybody to your sound. The first one is off of your newest album, Kentucky Bluegrass. It's called Church Bus. And we talked about co-writes. You wrote this one with Billy Montana, who has writing credits with John Party and Lee Brice and Sarah Evans. Give us the story behind how you guys got hooked up for this song and what the writing process was like.
My publishers actually hooked that up, which I'm really grateful for. I have a new publishing deal, and they hooked me up with him, and Dan Fernandez is a co-writer on that song too. And I knew that who Billy was, and I knew that he wrote Suds in the Bucket for Sarah Evans, so I was stoked to get to go and write with him. And I just started telling him this story of the church bus and how I had gotten this idea. I got the melody when I was filling up the van, the church bus, and I just started singing, church bus, it's time for us to go. And he loved that. And then he was like, okay, tell me everything. Tell me where you found it. And I'm like, well, we got on Facebook Marketplace and found this preacher in Jasper, Alabama, and he had it for sale. We drove down there and got it. And he just started kind of putting everything I was saying into this lyric in the coolest way that I didn't even think of, because I just thought, I'm just telling a story, but he could hear it as a song instead of me just talking about it. And it was just really fun to write.
Okay, let's give everybody a chance to listen to it. This one is called Church Bus from today's guest, Brit Taylor.
That sign on your windshield was a sign from the Lord, a miracle to find any kind of line for. The tires were bare and full of air, and the engine not half bad. That church bus, it's time for us to go. Church bus, it's that trailer to the toe. We sure ain't holy rollers, we're just rolling down this road. Ain't trying to get to heaven, just trying to make it to the show. That ain't the engine smoking, they're just toking in the back. Them blue lights see First Nazarene, and hell, they just wave us past. Lord knows this little hillbilly band can raise a lot of hell. We appreciate your service, keep our secrets to yourself. Church bus, it's time for us to go. Church bus, it's that trailer to the toe. We sure ain't holy rollers, we're just rolling down this road. We ain't trying to get to heaven, just trying to make it to the show. Church bus, duct tape and a prayer. Church bus, come on, take us there. Church bus, it's time for us to go. Church bus, it's that trailer to the toe. We sure ain't holy rollers, we're just rolling down this road. We ain't trying to get to heaven, just trying to make it to the show. We ain't trying to get to heaven, just trying to make it to the show.
1, 2, 3.
And that one was called Church Bus from Brit Taylor off of her February 2024 album, Kentucky Bluegrass. It was a follow-up to your 2023 album, Kentucky Blue. Was it always the plan to put out those two albums with those two names?
No. So I made the first Kentucky Blue record with Sturgill Simpson and David Ferguson, and it was so much fun. And then I think we released that in February of 23. And then in May, my husband and I were on the road, and I had written Church Bus, and I had written St. Anthony. And I just looked at my husband and I was like, man, we should make a bluegrass record and call it Kentucky Bluegrass and just like do 5 songs from the record. And he was like, no. And I'm like, what? No? And he's like, no. We should do a bluegrass record, but we should call it Kentucky Bluegrass. And I was like, that's genius. And I text my manager, and he's the coolest. And he was like, oh, hell yeah. You got to do that. And then I called 30 Tigers, and we did it. And we saved it for the year anniversary this year of Kentucky Blue. And it was one of the most fun records that I've ever made.
I mean, it just seems like you guys were having fun when you put that one together. All of the songs. I mean, it's one of those albums that's tough to just like throw on a vinyl record and sit in your room and listen to. You want to get up and kind of like move with it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy on that one.
Well, and with Kentucky Blue, you worked with Sturgill Simpson on that. How did you guys get hooked up for that project?
I had been meeting with a bunch of producers around Nashville, and I didn't want to work with any of them. I just don't feel like any of them like really got my vision for what I wanted to do, and was still, everybody wants to turn you into a cash cow. Not that I wouldn't want to be a cash cow, but I'd like to be one in my own way. But I had texted David Ferguson, and I was like, man, I am looking for a producer. I don't want to work with any of these people. How about me and you make a record together? And he texted back immediately and just said, how about me and Sturgill do it? And I was like, are you joking me right now?
That's a heck of a
Are you
text.
kidding? It was the most surreal text I've ever gotten.
Well, we do have another song off of your Kentucky Bluegrass album. It's called If You Don't Want to Love Me. This one is honestly probably my favorite song off of the whole album. Give us the story behind writing and recording this one before we let everybody listen to it.
I wrote that with my husband and Adam. I'm trying to think of his last name now. I'm going crazy. But we wrote this out on our front porch, and it was just fun. I think we were like struggling to get an idea, and then I kind of walked away into the house and just started singing like the first verse and came outside and was like, what about this? And then Adam had some more of the saucier lines in the song. He was like, if I'd known he was going to cut that, I wouldn't have wrote that.
It's called If You Don't Want to Love Me from future farm jammer Brit Taylor.
To dry like them clothes out on that line, but like that jaybird perched at the top of the pole, baby, this bird's gotta fly. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright if you don't wanna love me. Well, I think I'll take to drinking, maybe do a little dancing too. Bake someone else my biscuits, let them try my gravy too. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright if you don't wanna love me. If you don't want this honey, don't go messing with this speed. If you don't wanna love me. Every word I said was true, but these days it ain't been too hard to find somebody new. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright if you don't wanna love me. If you don't want these peaches, don't go shaking on this tree. If you don't wanna love me. Don't wanna love me. Wanna love me.
And that one, the last track off of her latest album, Kentucky Bluegrass. It's If You Don't Want to Love Me by Brit Taylor. And Brit, we're excited to get you out on the farm this Labor Day weekend up here in Washington. But for those of us that haven't had the opportunity to see you perform yet, what can we expect when you hit the stage on that Saturday afternoon?
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of storytelling. I love to tell stories. So I'm going to air a little dirty laundry on stage. You never know. But it's fun. I got the best band and we're just itching to get up on that stage and play.
Well, if you're out there listening and you still haven't gotten your tickets yet, first off, hurry up because they're going to sell out. But if you head over to farmjamfestival.com, use code TEAPARTY, all one word, you'll save 25% on your entry passes. and you can come out and see Brit Taylor live and have fun with us. It sounds like it's going to be a great time when you get out there up on the stage. And if anybody was in Nashville, early last year when you made your Opry debut, maybe they might have a little bit of an idea of what's going to happen. But that stage is a little different than what happens at a festival in the middle of a cornfield. But talk us through what that experience was like for you playing the Grand Ole Opry from an artist perspective, from getting that call to actually stepping on stage in that circle. I imagine it was pretty surreal.
It was surreal, all of it. I'll never forget when and where and how I found out about it. And then Lori Morgan texted me and congratulated me. It was just crazy. The whole experience. The Opry is so sweet. They captured it all and put it on YouTube, and I got to talk to them. But it was like a whirlwind. It was almost like, you hear people talk about their wedding and all the people that are there and how they just like it went so fast that it doesn't even seem real. And that's what this felt like. It's like if I didn't have that video footage and people telling me it happened, I would be like, no, I dreamed that. That was a dream. That didn't really happen. But it did happen, and it was perfect. Just every bit of it. I will cherish it for the rest of my life.
And how many times have you gone back and watched that video yourself? Was it quite a bit, or just the one time?
Just the one time that it popped up, but yeah, I need to watch it again.
Well, and like you said, if people are interested, they can go find it. It's really easy to find on YouTube. Just search Brit Taylor Opry, and it'll pop right on up.
Yep.
Well, Brit, before we let you go, we end every show kind of the same way we started it, with the first four. But before we get into that, where can people keep up with what you've got going on? What's your website and what are your socials?
It's brittaylormusic.com, and that's just one T on Brit. And I'm probably most active on Instagram, so get on there and follow me. It's Brit Taylor Music.
There you go. Okay, you ready for the final four?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
It's time for the Final Four.
Okay, these ones again, I think they'll make you think a little bit, but they might be a little bit easier. First question, what's your favorite concert memory of a concert that you've attended?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Two of them come to mind, and I don't know which one is better. I got to watch George Jones at the Mountain Arts Center in Prestonsburg, the stage that I grew up on. So that was really crazy. And I got to take my papa, who loved George Jones so much. So that was a really special memory. I also took him to that same stage to watch Ralph Stanley. So that was pretty awesome. And then my first like big lights and like, the whole 9-yard arena show that I saw was Shania Twain at the Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky.
That sounds like a good time too.
Oh yeah, it was.
Okay, how about this for question number 2? Who are your 3 most recently played artists on your Spotify or Apple? And you can cheat and look if you need to.
Who would it be? I know Chris Stapleton, and then I was listening to Miranda Lambert's new song. Who else was I listening to? Dwight Yoakam.
Okay. Those are good choices there. Good choices.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, question number 3, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. If you had one day to give out restaurant recommendations in Nashville, where are you stopping for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Oh, goodness. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, so 3 different spots.
We go to all kinds of different places all the time.
You're not stuck in that same rut that everybody else is. The same restaurant all the time. Let's
see. We go to, okay, where would be a breakfast spot? We make a lot of breakfast at home. And our favorite spot sadly just closed down. We were going to the Southern Spoon in Smyrna, which was like in this hole in the wall shopping, which was probably why I guess it shut down. Nobody really knew about it, but it was delicious. And they had Wagyu bologna.
Oh, interesting.
I don't even know what that is, but they had it and it was delicious. So I guess that would be breakfast. Lunch, and this is in Lebanon. We kind of live outside of Nashville a little bit, but our friend owns a organic grocery store. She only sells like local farmer stuff, so local meats, local cheeses, local everything. But she cooks lunch sometimes, so she'll do meat and 3, and I don't think you can beat it. So that will be Demeter's Common for lunch. And you can stop at Polly Sparrow's Bakery after that and get you something sweet because she's wonderful. And dinner, where would I go to? We've been going to Hawker's a lot. It's like Asian fusion food, and we love that. There's so many good places to eat in Nashville.
I think those are some good recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Last question of the whole show for you, and take as much or as little time to answer this as you want. But if you could pick one thing for people to take away from your appearance on the show or just from your music in general, what would it be?
I hope they leave with an idea of me as being down to earth and fun, and I hope that they'll want to check the music out.
There you go. Easy as that. Brit, thank you so much for jumping on here. It was a great time. I can't wait to meet you in person at Farm Jam.
I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
Awesome. If you guys are out there, be sure to head over to farmjamfestival.com and get your tickets using the code Tea Party, all one word. But that was another episode of the Tea Party Podcast. It's the country music podcast where you find new friends and new music like Brit Taylor and her newest album, Kentucky Bluegrass.
Go tee off on the like button at facebook.com/Tea Party Podcast.
This has been a Tea Party Communications production. Theme music created by Jesse Quandt. Announcer voiceovers by Jay Gwinn. And as always, hosted by Ty Pisani.